Are you ready to take the next step in your multifamily investing career? The time has never been better than now. Think Multifamily's Deal Analysis Workshop is a comprehensive live training course that will help increase your skills, knowledge, confidence as an investor before you invest. This workshop is a unique experience that provides hands-on instruction and guidance directly from Mark Kinney, who has completed over 100 multifamily syndications valued at over $1 billion. This course goes beyond theory as you will be presented with real case studies and practice scenarios to work out in class. By the end of the training, you will have significantly improved your ability to evaluate deals quickly, make informed decisions, and take your investing skills to the next level with confidence. For more information and to register for Think Multifamily's Deal Analysis Workshop, go to thinkmultifamily.com/DAW. Use code Whitney100 to save $100. The Deal Analysis Workshop is designed for both beginner and experienced investors. Whether you are looking for a foundational understanding of how to analyze multifamily investments or looking for fresh insight on how to pivot your analysis method for this current market cycle, this is a workshop you have been looking for. Register today at thinkmultifamily.com/DAW. Use code Whitney100 to save $100. This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, we've packed a number of shows together to give you some highlights. I know you're going to enjoy the show. Thank you for being with us today. Our guest is Trevor West. Thanks for being on the show, Trevor.
Thank you very much, Whitney. I'm very grateful to be here.
Trevor is a former Air Force Special Operations Analyst who approaches real estate and life through desire, discipline, and a positive attitude. He is a firm believer in the magic of thinking big and is leaning forward in the apartment syndication space to put him and his team's first apartment building under contract. His goal is to lead an extraordinary life and create generational wealth for himself and those around him through real estate syndication. Trevor, thank you again. Or first off, thank you for your service. I'm always grateful for the men and women who are willing to volunteer to put their life on the line for our country and protect us. So thank you for that. And also thank you for just being on the show. And I just love your bio and just, the positive attitude. I think it's so important. But, let's jump into that. Give us a little about your background and just your desire to get into the syndication business.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, super grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me on the show. As you mentioned, I joined the Air Force shortly after high school. I didn't want to go to college, so I went in, originally wanted to do special forces, but colorblind versus along with some other things just kind of prevented me from doing that. So the next step was I want to do the next coolest thing. So that was, Intel analyst. And continuing with that mindset and that drive to be the best, I went and assessed for a special operations unit where I spent the majority of my time in the Air Force working with special forces, just to mention Ashton Mulverick, who was actually on this show prior to this, and working through a lot of the challenges that come along with being in a high stress environment at a young age taught me that, there's more to life and there's more that I can do than, being in the Air Force was an amazing opportunity. But going in with the mindset of I'm going to do 20 years and then start my life, that just wasn't in the cards for me. A lot of people say, well, when I retire or I'm after the 10-year mark, so I might as well just do 10 more. And that just, I couldn't jive with that type of thinking. So I ended up joining the local rugby team. And on a catastrophic day, I ended up snapping my leg. And being an extremely extroverted person, I'm always around people. I'm always positive and wanting to be around others. So when I broke my leg, my 3 roommates at the time, who had always spent my time with, they ended up deploying. So it was just me alone with my thoughts, burning through Netflix. And then I just had an insane, and I'm super grateful for having an extreme mindset shift. It was like, I really got to start figuring this out for myself. So it started with financial intelligence, building my financial IQ. That quickly turned into personal development. And then, just like so many others, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a book that I read. And it just whoop, real estate is exactly where I want to be. As I mentioned before, I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to build something for myself. So I started just learning and burning through books, learning as much as I could. And then the next thing everyone always talks about is action. You have to put it to action. So 3 months later, I went out and bought my first property, triplex. And ever since then, I've just seeing the power that's behind real estate and what it can really do for your life. And money's not the cause, it's the result. And it's a tool that can promote a certain type of lifestyle, not just for yourself and your family, but for others around you, which is exactly why apartment syndication was the next step for us.
Nice. No, I'm grateful for that. Just showing us how you got to where you're at now. I love just obviously the military mindset. I talk about that a lot just when I'm speaking somewhere about how the military just gave me that never give up mindset, and I love how you talked about, placing you in high stress environments at a young age and how that taught you so much. And I can relate to that as well. So you couldn't see doing that for 20 years. And so you started looking, right? I mean, what else, can I make more for myself or, of myself? But, the incident of breaking your leg, man, made your roommates take a different route than you did, right? They were deployed and so you found some time on your hands. So, 3 months though, after, just learning, putting it into action, you had your first property. Give us a few details about that property. And then I want to jump into why you want to move into the syndication space as well. But, 3 months into that first deal, how did you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just learning as much as I could. One of the things that always resonated with me is you can read all the books and all the articles, but you're not going to actually learn until you start doing. And, being in the military, action is, if you're not taking action, something's wrong. If you're not taking action, someone could potentially get hurt. So I went out, military VA loan. I was just, as we mentioned before we started the podcast, I'm located just south of Raleigh, and I was bound and determined to find a property in Raleigh because, the market was just insane. But I quickly realized after walking 15, 20 properties, I wasn't going to make any money. So I started looking in other markets down in Fayetteville and the surrounding submarkets there. And I found a triplex. It had been converted to a triplex from two different houses. And the seller was an older guy trying to liquidate, trying to just go and travel with his wife. And they'd been on the market for about 550 days. It was in a more rural pocket of the submarket of Fayetteville. But I was like, this looks like it could be a good opportunity based on what I had already learned about running the numbers. So went in, negotiated a price at the 1% rule. Some of the listeners are familiar with that. And when the VA came in and did their appraisal, they couldn't find any multifamily properties in the area, which significantly dropped the appraisal price, which the seller agreed, and fixed all of the property or fixed all the required repairs. And I walked into a cash flowing property and I actually deployed. And one of the biggest lessons I learned from that property is never let the seller manage your property after you're gone. Because what had happened was he had already had a pre-existing relationship with the tenants on the good old boy system of, hey, don't worry about this month, you can pay me later. And that just spiraled into a number of different problems because he shut off the utilities for that tenant and they were struggling. They had a brand new baby. So I guess one of the main lessons that I'd like to transfer from that property to apartment syndication is management is key. Having a stellar property manager can make or break a deal, because at the time I was losing money because he was letting people slip on their payments and things of that nature.
Nice. So, now that you've done the triplex and now you're learning about the syndication business, why syndication? Why not, keep growing with smaller multifamily like you're doing?
So economics aside, apartment syndication just aligns with who I am as a person. And when I first got into the personal development side of things, I read a book called Black Hole Focus. And the premise of the book is how intelligent people can create a powerful purpose for their life. And it runs you through all these different exercises about setting your core values, who you are as a person. And for me, it was consistency, long-term self-respect, achievement, influence, and living my happiest life. So apartment syndication really is all of those things. I get influence because I'm raising capital through investors. I am achieving because once we get our first deal under our belt, then that just compounds into the next thing. And it's just a win-win for everybody. Being that positive person that I choose to be, I win, my investor wins, the community wins because they get safe and affordable housing. And it really is something that you can just create. Why our goal? So we'll probably talk about it in a minute, but surrounding myself with a positive team. A lot of syndicators I see are, just doing it on their own, and that's awesome. And I can so respect that. But myself and my two partners can kind of spread the responsibility out a little bit. So now we are working together towards one common goal. And through syndication, it aligns so well to building a business that we can make last. We don't have to go out and buy 50 duplexes to reach our 100 unit goal. We can go buy a 30 unit and then an 80 unit and then 100 plus. And it's something that creates that true generational wealth. When you get into real estate at first, everyone talks about generational wealth. This is how it starts. Yes, that's where it starts, but it doesn't have to stay at a duplex and triplex. You can absolutely build upon that, and it creates something that is truly going to last past the days that I'm on this planet.
What's a way that you've recently improved your business that we could apply to our business?
It's definitely that team mentality, because some of the syndicators that I've been talking to, especially new ones, the ones who are excelling have a number of team members that they're working with. The ones who are, this is crazy, I have so much to do, I still have to handle my regular life and build this business all at the same time, are the ones who are trying to do it solo. I think understanding that it's not about the money, especially for newer syndicators, especially for those who don't have a deal under the belt, it's not about the money, as I mentioned earlier, but it's about the experience. It's about getting in and building long-lasting relationships with people that you know, like, and trust. That is going to be the difference between somebody who is struggling to get that next deal, struggling to put their first deal under contract, versus the people who are leveraging out their time and leveraging out other people's expertise.
Our guest is Daisy Serrano. Thanks for being on the show, Daisy.
Hi, Whitney. Thank you so much for having me. Excited for today.
I know you have your superpowers, like connecting with people, learning about people. Let's talk about that a little bit, because it's so important in this business. It's a skill that I had to work on and read books about and practice and, just learn how to connect with people and learn about them. Right. And so I would love for you just to elaborate on that a little bit, and maybe we can talk through some examples or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely happy to. So I, even in thinking, what is my superpower? I thought, ooh, what should I say? I was thinking I need to say something that's more business related, right? Because it is a business essentially. And, the more I thought about it, the more I said, no, I know who I am. And, who I am as a person is someone who loves connecting with people and somebody who loves learning people's stories. And the best way to sort of phrase it is, one time a friend told me, you're a great networker. And I said, oh, I never thought of myself as a networker. But now thinking back, somebody who networks is somebody who loves learning about people and creating a genuine relationship. And as you mentioned, Whitney, in this industry, it's all about people, right? Whether it is, your clients, the tenants, the residents that live, in the properties, right, in multifamily, or whether it's the partners that you're working with, whether it's the investors, it's all about people. And so for me, it was really, once I realized that it is a business of people and it is those connections that get you the furthest, then I fully jumped in, because I felt like there was a gap in my experience coming from a very different world. And what I realized is that my experience fits so well into multifamily because of that love for genuine connection with people. And so what that's looked like now is webinars, events, meetups. For me, it's very easy to walk into a room and go up to a stranger and talk and ask questions. And in a way that's
so
very
difficult
genuine.
For so many people. Like that is it's so fearful. I mean, so many people are so fearful of that right there. Just walking up, talking to somebody they don't know. And I would say that's something I mean, I've had a lot of practice with over many years now, but initially it's not easy, right?
Yeah. And a good example, right, to your point, Whitney, is, when I decided and I committed to taking real estate seriously, I joined the Women's Real Estate Network that you mentioned. I'm on the leadership team for now. And I didn't know anybody there, right? My industry was completely different. And so I found this group on Meetup and I just showed up. And, it was such an amazing experience, because I showed up and I was there to learn and I was just so excited to be there. And so it was a very easy transition, right? To be able to walk into a room and not knowing a lot about not being able to talk about cap rate or, NOI, or right, not having the terminology down at that point, but understanding that, I was interested in being there and being able to have those conversations. I walked away from that meeting with about 4 phone numbers. I signed up for the membership right then and there, and I signed up to volunteer with the organization. And so that really led me in this trajectory where, I just became so involved with the organization that now I'm on the leadership team. But it really started with just showing up, being very comfortable with, walking up to people and asking questions and just chatting and wanting to know them better. And that was where it started for me.
Wanting to know them better. If you just think like that, there's a lot of questions that come to mind, or conversation starters, right? That you can ask someone. And I think that's hard initially because you don't know what you're going to say, or if you have, when people are so nervous about that, you maybe fumble over your words quite a bit or something like, you're worried about that. But if you are focused on learning about them, it's a lot easier, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's beautiful. I mean, I think my approach to life is that everybody has a very unique story. Everybody's gone through something different. Everybody has such lived experiences and, wisdom and truths that have come from those experiences. So for me, it's really, whether I'm at a metro station in LA, and just sit next to a stranger, it's just really learning who they are. And I think that's really my approach to life and to real estate. It's just wanting to learn who people are. And sometimes there's better connections and sometimes there isn't as good connections, right? I mean, we're very different. And so you don't connect with everybody necessarily. But I think once you build your tribe and the people that you resonate with and your values aligned, then there's so much power in that. And you might lose that opportunity if you don't start that conversation.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.